Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
And good afternoon. Good evening. Good on replay. Whatever time of day it is that you're watching this. We are happy that you're
My
here.
coffee cup's empty.
A coffee cup's empty.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
I forgot to fill up.
You can just show everyone your cup.
Can I just have yours?
No. That's a silly question. Can he just have mine? You're lucky I don't actually drink real coffee anymore.
There'd be a fight.
Yeah, I'd fight you for that. Hey, you guys, it's day 4. Are you excited? I'm excited. It is beautiful outside. So I'm in this great mood because we don't get that kind of weather here in Washington.
No.
So it's been amazing just to wake up and
just in a few months, we're going to be complaining about the heat.
Oh,
don't worry about that.
You know what though? I love this time of year because it's nice and bright early in the morning. The sun's already up, and then it's light outside until like 9 or something. And so it's my favorite time of year because, we get into the winter. It's like the dark night of my soul. It's like dark by midday. It's like if I want to live in Alaska, I live in Alaska. Right, Irene? But anyway, before we dive into today's discussion, it is, and by the way, I just want to remind you, it is on finding our way back from heart disease and what all goes into that. And so it's been a really, really good week with that. But one thing you need to be aware of before we get going is that there is a link to the study guide that we are using for this. So that is in the YouVersion Bible app. So in the description, you're going to see a link to the actual devotional piece that we're using to lead this discussion this week in this series. And that is on that link. So when you click that link, it'll take you to the YouVersion Bible app. You can download the app if you haven't already, or if you're on desktop, you don't have to download the app. It'll just take you to the website. But either way, it will take you to this particular study so that you can follow along with us.
Right. And if you don't know us, if you're new to our broadcast, my name is Javie.
I'm Jessica.
And we are with Underdog Ninja. Here at Underdog Ninja, we focus on 3 things. That is faith, character, and action. Those are the pillars. Those are the things that hold us up day to day. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 key areas that we focus on throughout everything we talk about. This is our life, right? Mm-hmm. And we come here every Tuesday through Saturday speaking about that faith piece, the foundation, where everything starts. We start with that spiritual, emotional piece. There are many, many things that we face in life, but when we are battling disease, battling obstacles, we feel that it's our faith that helps bring us through.
Absolutely.
But anyway, go ahead.
Oh no,
I had one more other thing to say, but
go on. I don't have anything to say.
Oh,
I'm just waiting on you.
I thought you were gonna interrupt.
No, I wasn't gonna interrupt. You're so used to me interrupting. You're just telling me to interrupt.
Yeah, I was expecting it.
No. Please.
No. I want to get some feedback today on how do you feel that this devotional is going? Are you getting something from it? Mm-hmm. Is it making sense in your life when you're thinking it through? I want to say it when you're looking through the scope of disease and what you're facing day to day. Is this helpful? Because look, we want to be helpful. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that we're number one, delivering God's word to you, mm-hmm. And in a way that is adding value to your life and is directing you and inspiring you and helping you. Mm-hmm. So I love that feedback. The other thing I would love your feedback on is, are you getting on these devotionals? Do you feel that are there areas that we haven't talked about? Are there areas that you're still struggling with and you need guidance, mm-hmm. God's guidance? You need in regards to our faith, in regards to that maybe that spiritual battle that is going on with you. Is there something that you're battling right now? Is there something that you need help with? If you aren't comfortable putting that in the comments,
Mhm.
I completely understand. But understand that this is a safe space. We understand where you're coming from,
Mhm.
and we all battle different things. So if you feel a little bit more comfortable, you could always private message
Mhm.
either one of us,
Yeah.
and we could discuss it. And if it's something that we feel that everybody could use, everybody needs to hear something, we will focus our devotionals on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys feel like there's something that you haven't, we need to address that you haven't feel like we have addressed yet, or maybe just some suggestions or some requests for topics, we absolutely welcome that, because what we ultimately want to do is serve you. This is more about you than what we feel like is good for us. I mean, these are really good for us, but we're here to make sure that you're getting what you need and to help facilitate God speaking to you into your life. So that's what we want to know is what is it that you want to hear?
Right, exactly. So like last week we were talking about laughter, and that was good for me.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Me too.
I needed that. We were talking about our devotionals, and a lot of times we talk about a lot of different serious matters, and so last week was like a breath of fresh air
Mhm.
into this, and a different perspective when we're approaching such serious circumstances.
Yeah.
So, but that's us. I want to know how you guys feel and what you guys are seeing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. These discussions are meant to get us thinking. They're meant to make us aware of what God has to say about things. They are here to make sure that we are thinking through growth and where we could be going with our situation. Like, what could we be using this for, kind of a thing. So if that's something that you need help with, make sure you message us. So again, I want to make sure I'm reiterating this every day this week that we're doing this. We are talking about finding our way back from heart disease. And really, it's finding our way forward, not back. We don't want to go backwards. We don't want to go back to who we used to be. We just want to get out of the darkness, and we want to go forward. So finding our way forward in heart disease is really what we're talking about. But I know that we always say, well, we want to find our way back. But what we really mean is we want to find our way back to happiness. We want to find our way, but it's forward, right? So we want to just keep that verbiage in mind, that the way we say that is forward, so that we remember that we're not going back, we're going forward. And you want to get started?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, so today we're talking about renewing your mind. Good morning, Annie. We forgot to say good morning to Annie.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so let's dive in. The Bible tells us that we need to renew our minds. Have you ever wondered why that is? It is because what we think is what we become. What we think is what we become, which is why I just said we need to find our way forward. The things that we say to ourselves are important. As we read in the Old Testament, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he, in Proverbs 23:7. What we think about is what we are going to yearn for and what we will become. Rene Descartes famously wrote the next phrase, I think, therefore I am. What we think about is what we will be worried about. What we worry about will be what we are afraid will happen, and that will become our idol. What we are afraid will happen will become our idol.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely true. I've seen it 1,000 times. What do you think about? Do you think like a Christian, taking every thought captive to obey Christ? Or do you think as the world thinks and just add a Christian tagline or motto to our thoughts?
Ooh.
When we renew our minds, we start to think Christianly. This changes the way that we do things. It changes the way we parent, how we treat our spouse, how we talk and act in our workplace, and how we live our lives. It is not enough just to keep thinking the same way we used to think before, adding a few touch-ups and shining it all up. That will not make a difference. We need to renew our minds entirely. We talk about this a lot. It is so important for us to understand that the way that we think affects our lives. It is the difference between living a life of sin and death and between a life of freedom and peace. Max Anders, a biblical commentator and author, says this: you move in the direction of what you put into your mind and what you allow your mind to dwell on. So, if you are not what you want If you are not what you want to be, then you must begin to think differently. If you are to think differently, you must put into your mind that which you want to become. If you do, the Holy Spirit will use it to change you to become what you want to be. If you do not, you will never be what you want to be. It all depends on what you put in your mind. This is what it means to be new in the attitude of your mind. I want to encourage you to read the scriptures, to fill your mind with the word of God, worship and listen to preaching, fill your mind with the things of God so that it will be renewed in a godly way. Yes. And then you will respond to things in a godly manner. Romans 12:1-2 says, and so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind that he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. And 2 Corinthians 10:5 says, we destroy every proud obstacle that keeps people from knowing God. We capture their rebellious thoughts and teach them to obey Christ. Philippians 4:8 says, and now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise.
You have to sneeze.
I do have to sneeze. I've had to sneeze this whole time. When I sneeze, though, it's like a bazooka, so I'm trying not to sneeze.
If it's all worded, I'm like, mute.
My whole body's, it's really weird. I sneeze like it's a total weird thing.
Anyway, so, man, I feel like this is exactly what we've been talking about for the last few weeks. God has really been pointing to this right here for the last few weeks.
Good morning, Monica.
When it's about what lens are you looking at life through?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What perspective are you looking at your life moving forward through the perspective of the person you used to be, or are you looking forward through this person, the person that you are? And if you and if you're looking forward, who is that person? How do they talk? How do they walk? What are their habits? What are their routines?
Mm-hmm.
So if you know what that is, or you know what it looks like,
mm-hmm.
then how do you get there? What do you listen to? What do you ingest? Okay.
What do you take in? Yeah. And this has so many, I want to dive into so many of these points that were made in this. But firstly, I just want to say this. God does renew our mind.
Did we say good morning to Monica?
Yeah, I just did.
Oh,
I said it in the middle of you talking.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Monica.
Good morning. God renews our mind, but we also have to be on board with the transformation. We have to be on board with renewing our mind. It can't be like, God, fix me while I go about my business. Like, that's not how it works. You have to, science is involved sometimes, okay? There is a real science to renewing your mind. And we've talked a lot about this, but because today is on renewing our mind and how thought patterns can create, actions and different things, I want to dive into that just for a second, is that it has to be both. It has to be that God's doing the work that he can only do, that only he can do in renewing who we are, what we are, okay, and how we are. But we have to too. We have to be on board with thinking the new thoughts. Remember, our brains are in charge of everything. Okay, we can tell. It's so interesting the way our brains work, though. We can tell our brains to do certain things, and our brain tells us to do certain things. There are things that my daughter's body does that she doesn't even realize she's doing. Mm-hmm. Because she has connective tissue disorder. There's little tremors involved that are completely benign. We've taken her to many doctors and have been told that sometimes in our bodies there are things where your motor systems, your motor function, part of your brain is telling your body to do something, and you're not cognitively involved. Like, you're not telling, I'm moving my hands right now, and I know I'm moving my hands. I'm telling my body, move your hand, right? The signals are, I'm cognitively saying, I know what I'm asking my body to do this. when you get up and walk somewhere, things like that. But there are motor functions in your body. Like you're not telling your heart to beat. That would suck if you had to tell your heart to beat in order for it to beat.
Oh, I forgot.
Dang, I
knew it was
forgot.
something.
I know, right? So, gosh darn it. I'm so busy. I can't tell my heart to beat. But there's motor functions and things like that. So our brain has things that are wired in. It's the same thing with thought patterns and things like that. We'll get to a point where we're ingesting all of these things, these negative things, these stressful things, and positive things. And all of that kind of stores and begins to build these actual connections in our brain. Actual physical brain cells connecting and making connections. When we say things like, oh, that child was learning that thing in math class, and I watched them make the connection. No, make the connections a real thing. We say those things because our brain actually makes physical connections called synapses. And that is when you have a thought pattern that connects literally and starts to build and build and build. You can break those connections and you can build those connections on purpose. So breaking those connections, those old thought patterns, you do by replacing them with new ones. So this takes a while. It takes at least 3 weeks, scientifically proven. But a lot of times we've talked about before, it takes longer because depending on how in a rut, what kind of like rut have you dug?
How much thought has gone into that?
Maybe it's childhood trauma. I mean, you've got a lot of thought patterns. Okay.
Repeated things. That's where you get into routines. So you have thoughts that then turn into routines, and then those routines turn into habits.
They turn into mantras,
right?
And they turn into things that we don't even realize we're thinking,
right? And then it goes back to what we were talking about, romanticizing it. Remember yesterday we were talking about how, and we've talked about this before, how we take our pain, we take our emotional pain, our physical pain, and it becomes the idol. It becomes the place you worship.
Yep.
And it's, and you might be saying, what do you mean? I hate this.
Yeah.
How can you say I worship it? Well, because you're really allowing it to dictate your life. You're allowing it to dictate all your decisions. It dictates your habits. It dictates those routines. It dictates how you talk, how you treat other people, your perspective.
We can worship our chains.
Sure.
Okay. That's what really we're saying is in that regard, is that the things that chain us down, the things that hold us captive, we can worship that. It's that cage that we sit inside and say, but this is my familiar zone. I've never not had this weight on me. I've never not had these chains. This is who I am now. This is who I identify as, or what I identify with. This is what I live with. I've just always lived with it. This is just what life is. This is just the way things are. It doesn't get better for our family. It doesn't get better for me. Those are the lies that we tell ourselves. And so when we want to let those chains go, it's like, well, what does that look like? I don't understand how to even operate that way. And not just romanticizing it. Maybe we don't romanticize it. Maybe we hate it and we just feel like, but you think about taking it off, right? And being vulnerable. And it's so much more uncomfortable. So you're like, well, I like this. This really hurts me, but at least I'm familiar with it. I'm comfortable there.
So you ever see those scientific experiments, whether it's with rats or whatever, an animal that's been caged. It's been caged or put in a certain environment for a long period of time, maybe even their whole life to this point. Then they unlock the door or they unchain the restrictions that it's been restricted to its whole existence or a good period of time. And they're very reluctant to go outside of that barrier.
Right.
Oftentimes they may venture out a little bit, but they go back in and then they stay there. The door is unlocked. The restrictions are lifted, but they've been locked into this routine and they could take them complete all the four walls away, yet
they would probably stay in that space.
Stay in that space because I'm familiar. This is my comfort zone.
Well, and why do we do that? Because of safety. So it's like we go into survival mode. I'm safe here. I have been safe here. And so because I'm familiar with it too, it feels safe. Even if you haven't been safe there,
Yeah.
you still, here's what I mean. Anything that we've been doing for a long period of time or our whole lives, if we haven't seen significant risk or pain involved where we feel like we have to like fight or flight, like we have to flee and escape the danger, then it's safe. That could be an abusive relationship. That could be, I mean, there could be like just, there's not enough. It's
That's
not
exactly what I was thinking.
there's not enough to flee. Then and it's proven to me, because think about it. Anything on the outside of what's been proven to you is the unknown. So if you're dealing with, well, I don't know if I can be this person. This is the unknown. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it's like to go outside my comfort zone and meet new people and start changing my habits and my attitudes and give myself over to God for that matter. You want me to be that vulnerable? This is all the unknown over here. So that doesn't seem safe. Even though it sounds better, or it sounds, even if it sounds unreasonable, but it's like, oh, that's my dream. It doesn't seem safe because we don't know anything about it. But even if we're in this ridiculous situation where it's even maybe not even really safe, it's destructive, but it's not been bad enough where we have imminent danger of our lives, and in our natural response, our fight or flight response doesn't have to be engaged. Because we've been in it so long, it's proven to be safe.
Yes.
So we're like, I'm going to stay there.
Any normal person or a person outside of that situation would see that it's unsafe, it's unhealthy,
it's destructive, it's
destructive,
going, yeah.
Yet you're in it, right?
Right.
You're in,
Mm-hmm.
You ever been in that where you're in that you could be in a house or be in an environment where it kind of stinks.
Yeah.
Yet after a while, it seems like the stink goes away.
You don't notice
and then someone from the outside walks in and they're like, what's that smell? And you're like,
what smell?
I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You knew it smelled when you walked in, but now you've gotten used to it.
How do those people that live in those ridiculous houses on those shows that you watch, and they like the cop shows or the hoarder shows or whatever, they come in and they're like, something died in here, and these people are like living in there.
Yeah. And they don't see it. That's exactly what we're talking about. Our minds start to that
is
connection.
Your mind a show on hoarders?
Oh gosh, yeah. Sometimes,
yeah.
But talk about those connections.
Mm-hmm.
We've allowed ourselves to get used to it. So the fight or flight instinct in us is not engaged.
Mm-hmm.
It's diffused.
Right.
And so we've conceded to it. And that's where they're pointing out here is we are romanticizing these things that are holding us back from our relationship with God. Look, ultimately we're talking about our relationship with God here, our faith. Yes, it could go in all these different areas, all our relationships, our health, all that. But we're talking about our faith here. We're talking about our relationship with God. Are you allowing your previous thoughts, your maybe previous experiences as you've grown up, as last week, last year, are you allowing those influences to dictate your relationship today, this moment with God? Are you allowing something that happened to you years ago get in the way of your relationship with God? There might be something today or something that for years that God has been working with you on. He's been bringing this to you and you don't want to go there. You don't want to open up that Pandora's box, right? Because it's just like what you were saying. If I open that up, I'm going to have to do this, this, and this.
I'm going to have to clean it out. I'm going to have to face it.
I'm going to have to face this, this. I'm going to have to face that person, that thing. I'm going to have to do the very thing that I regretted most of my life or for this period of time. Right. I can't do that, God. And look, He wants us to deal with it. He wants to lay that at His feet, to trust Him. Yep. So He could take that burden off of us.
Well, it's like a wound. and we protect the wound, but we don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
We don't let anyone treat it. We don't treat it. We don't put any salve on it. We don't put any rubbing alcohol on it or whatever we need to do to clean it out, and we don't bandage it. We just leave it open to fester.
We just tough it out, right?
Well, and then it becomes like a flesh-eating disease.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious. It becomes infected. It becomes even more and more painful, and then we protect it even more, and like a wild animal. But we don't do anything about it, and it just becomes worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and it is okay. So, like a wild animal, anybody that tries to address it, you're gonna bite their head off. You're gonna attack. You're gonna defend it.
Right.
And that's what I mean by these things that you're holding on to affects your relationships, affects your health. It affects every aspect of your life. God wants to release that from you, but we have to be willing to let it go. And when we let it go, we have to really let it go, guys. We have to give it away freely to the Lord, not take it back. Oftentimes we just pick back up. There's routines that I have been wanting to get out of, and I'll give up, and then
take back.
Take right back.
Because it's our comfort zone, even though we know it's destructive, or we know it's not healthy, or we know it's not where we want it, who we want to be, or where we want to go.
Right.
Sometimes it's big and sometimes it's little, but either way, it's still old.
Exactly.
And
real quick. Good morning, Mom.
Good morning.
I just wanted to point that out. And
good morning.
She said that she missed yesterday, and
Watched
it
on
on YouTube. So if you guys don't know, if you didn't catch it, we are live on YouTube now. So this is streaming live into YouTube, but they will continue to stay there. So if you want to go to past episodes, if you want to repeat maybe something that we did last week, go ahead and go back to that.
Yep.
All right.
All our episodes are on YouTube, and they stay there for you to watch on replay for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about too what this devotional said about what we think about and what we worry about becomes who we are. I love the verse. I mean, it points out an entire verse. Where did it go? Proverbs 23:7. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he.
Yes.
So think about that. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. I know.
Bless you.
Hold the microphone. Anyway, but
let's hold the table.
Seriously, it's like I sneeze and my whole body just like.
That's what I should have. That's what I should have done.
Shaking the table. It's an earthquake. No, it's just a sneeze. That's how my life is. So it's this whole thing that it's like we say you are what you eat, but you actually are what you think. You are what you think. Your brain is in control of everything. And that's what I was trying to get at in the beginning, is that everything that we think and we control and we do with our brain starts to manifest in our lives. Because think about it. Our body isn't what's controlling everything. Right? So anything that's, because I want to really dive into this, because here's the thing. People think, I'm just going to think something and it's just going to appear. Like, it's not a magic trick. Our minds are what's in control. All of our minds collectively, right? Anywhere we go, this world is run by brains. Like, it's people that are doing things with their brains, which then runs machines and runs their bodies and everything. So thought controls everything. It's not a magic trick, though. It's all about whatever actions you see happening. Mm-hmm. I want to really get out of that thought that like, oh, we're going to think something and it's going to appear. That's not what I'm talking about. That's ridiculous. No, I'm saying that what we think is manifested through our actions, through our emotions, right? And what we think comes from our identity in Christ. And that's where we need to be rooted in. Right. And that's why, because that drives our thoughts and our actions and all of that. So when we are worried about something, it's not just new thoughts like, oh, we have this thought about something, or we're even actively thinking. We don't even sometimes realize what we're thinking about. When we don't hand something over to God and it's back there in the vault, we think it's in the vault. We think we've thrown it away. We think that we don't think about that anymore. We're fooling ourselves. When we haven't fully given it to God, the things that we worry about, the things that we sit on and stuff away is controlling us, because it's back there shaping our decisions, shaping our character, shaping our faith, shaping our actions. Okay? And if we don't root it out, it's like a cancer. It'll consume everything else.
Yeah. It goes back to what you're talking about. you
Yeah. Once you clean it out and empty it out, it feels so good and you're working through it. Yes.
exactly.
Yep.
But you're talking about, and we often mention this analogy about when we say the Suburban, say a green Suburban, and the reason why we point that out because it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
A green Suburban stands out, right? And let's say green's your favorite color. You've been wanting a Suburban, and I never see green Suburbans,
Right.
but I want one. I'm going to be the unique one, right? And so I'm going to get this Suburban, and it's going to be green, and
it's going to have this
because I want to be unique, right?
Yeah.
Pretty soon, everywhere you go, you start to see a green Suburban. And you're like,
oh, come on.
Yeah. Are you serious?
Were they there the whole time?
And then another one, and then another one. You see it on commercials. You see it. Your neighbor parked right next to you. Hey, when did you get that? Oh, we had that for a couple of years now. Okay.
Yeah.
You never noticed it. Why? Because your mind wasn't fixated on it. You weren't thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what we're pointing out here. When you're thinking those negative thoughts and you're allowing them to land, we're allowing them to land in your mind,
mm-hmm.
and you get fixated on it. You start thinking about it. You start worrying about it. You start to obsess about it. You start seeing it in other things in your life.
Right.
It starts to solidify in your life. It's the same thing when we're thinking about things of God, those good thoughts, the loving thoughts, the being more gracious, to be more understanding, being more Christ-like.
Being more grateful.
When we start focusing on the blessings that he has given us, we start to see,
more blessings.
He has.
Yep.
And when we do that, and that's why we were saying yesterday about relationships, and when you start being that certain person, you start being the person you want to be, you start attracting the other people that have that like-minded attitude that you would have never seen before. They have maybe been your neighbor. They could have been the grocery store clerk.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people that have been around you for quite a while, and you never had this interest. You never had this commonality because
mm-hmm.
you are on a different. You are on a different thought pattern. Maybe you were, maybe it was a grocery store clerk that you've just never looked at their face, right? Because you're just all about your day, and you're getting your day, you're getting what you need to get, and you're out. You never talk. You never talk to them. But now you have this more lighter perspective, a more outgoing personality, and you connect with this grocery store clerk, let's say, and you're looking at them and you find some common interest. Mm-hmm. You strike a conversation, and now you have a friendship. That's how these things happen.
Well, and I wanted to talk about this too. It says, when we renew our minds, we start to think Christianly. This changes the way we do things. It changes how we parent, how we treat our spouse, how we talk, how we act in our workplace, how we live our lives. That's true. Exactly. It changes who we are, how we act, all the things, how we interact. It changes our character. When we talk about faith, character, and action here, when you have your faith, right? When you start to have your faith rooted in the right place, that starts to build who you are, your character, right? Or who you want to be, how you act. And then who that is determines how you act. It determines your actions, how we parent, that's the faith, character, and action pillars that we talk about. And then it says this: it is not enough just to keep thinking the same way we used to think before, adding a few touch-ups and shining it up. That will not make a difference. We need to renew our minds entirely. We are not talking here about just think more positive things. Just do better. Just become someone you're not. I'm not talking about just shining things up and putting on a new shiny Christian suit. Please don't do that. That's ridiculous, and it's not helpful. And by the way, now you're just lying to yourself. And that's a terrible path to go down. So it needs to be that you genuinely say, God, I want something new. So what we're talking about here is, it sounds like there's a lot of work in all of that. And it sounds like there's a lot of change and all of that. Do you want something new? Do you want to find your way forward out of heart disease? Do you want things to be different? Do you want to be different? It's all about, you're sitting in this situation and you're saying, I mean, you're watching this because you saw finding your way out of heart disease. Yes. Yes. Okay. So you want things to be different. Then things need to be different. You need to think different things.
Right.
You can't be and do the same and expect something different. That's defined as insanity. Well, you're not insane, right? So, okay, we need to be different then. We need to think differently. We need to be striving to do something outside our comfort zone. We need to get away from those old wounds and those old habits and those old scars and the pain that we used to have. It has to be something new. And then God's going to do something new in you as well. That whole thing I was talking about, when you're on your two sides of the same coin, like God's doing what he does, but you're also on board with, I need something new, God. I'm going to do the new thing. I'm going to think the new thing. I'm going to be the new thing. And then something miraculous happens and he really multiplies our efforts.
Right.
Hey, good afternoon, Gaynor. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon.
Happy Friday. Yes, in the UK this afternoon for you.
As you're pointing out here, and as you're talking, think about our relationship with our kids. And I know we've experienced it. I'm wondering if you guys experienced this, where there's a point in your parenting that, you've found yourself in like a busy schedule. Kids are going to school, you're going to work, and you got to fly through your weekends and things like that. And you see some behavioral things going on with your kids, and you just lay down your discipline or your correction or whatever else, and you just keep moving on. It just seems like you're not making an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And then you try, well, hey, I need you to, do this, and this. And you're pointing out all the flaws.
You need to be better. You need to stop doing that. Yeah.
But then there's a point when you realize, wait a second, I need to put the brakes on. It starts with me.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they picking that up from?
Yeah.
Why are they doing what they're doing? And you realize that you're doing the same things.
Mm-hmm.
It's no use. It's no point of trying to, what if you just said, well, I'm going to do this. You should do it too. And then you do it for a few days or a few weeks, and then you go right back to your old habits. I think we've made the biggest connections when we led the way,
mm-hmm.
and we were the example.
Yep. And
we shared the struggle and with them, and then made a connection. And we figured out that there are some deeper issues there with our kids, and then we could address them. But look, we would never get down to that if we would have continued to go at the pace that we were going, doing the same destructive routines and just kind of ignoring it. Well, they're kids. We have a busy schedule.
We don't have time for this.
We don't have time for this. But they're what?
Didn't you read in Titus like a couple mornings ago in your reading? It was an actual verse on, you cannot teach by saying words. It was about being the example.
Yeah, exactly.
You okay?
Yeah. Okay. But that's exactly right. We have to be the example. Titus is in
Timothy or something.
No. In Titus 2, is talking about the structure of the church, of what older men need to be and older women need to be. And then those women, those older women, or the men, the elders, need to really be that example to the younger generation. And so we're talking about being an example. We can't be an example if we are too caught up in ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're too caught up with ourselves, we aren't noticing the obvious. We're not seeing the green Suburban, right, parked right in our living room. And,
yeah.
and because
was this here the whole time?
Right, the whole time. But the thing is there are things that might be going on in your household, and you are so caught up with your disease. You're so caught up with what's going on with you. And I understand it's overwhelming, but you're focused on, why can't they understand me? Why can't they see things that I need?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than living your life as the example, doing what you need to do, taking care of yourself, taking the responsibility you need to take care of. Quit pointing out what everybody else is doing. Focus on what you need to do.
Yep.
You do it, everybody else will follow.
Well, and that's true too for in our own minds. You said, there could be something going on in your own house, but you're so focused on your disease that you don't notice, and you're not being the example. What about when there could be something going on in our own mind, but we're so focused on our disease?
Yeah.
We're so focused on our pain. And that's back to what we were talking about, last week, I think even, or all the weeks, is we're so focused on the pain that we're blinded to the growth and the work that needs to be done. And not realizing, and this is the lie from the enemy, is that the pain is the actual most powerful tool we have in our arsenal to get that growth, to get on the other side. The pain is actually the biggest catalyst we have, the biggest tool, the most powerful path we have to take to the fastest and most incredible growth we've ever had in our lives. And you know that. We all know that. We just don't like it. How many things in our lives do we know to be true? We just don't like that that's the answer. We don't like that that's the truth. We don't like that it takes a health crisis for us to make changes. We don't like that our kids only learn the hard way. We don't like that we only learn the hard way. We don't like the answer sometimes. We don't like that if we want to be fit, we have to go work out, and it sucks.
Right.
We don't like that the healthiest foods is lettuce. But we know the truth, okay? Like, why can't fish and chips be the healthiest?
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't, and we just don't like it. But you know what? We didn't get where we are in life because we did everything we liked. We didn't get how far we've gotten, right? I know. How far have you come in life? How many things have you overcome already? What kind of hardships have you overcome and said, yeah, I'm a survivor. I did that. You're proud of yourself. You've come this far. God's given you a second chance. All the things you've ever overcome in your life. You've looked back and said, look what I did. Look who I am now because of that. Because of that. Well, this is just another one of those things. And we have to stop looking directly into our pain and being so blinded that we're all only looking at our pain instead of looking at the growth that the pain, right, is creating, and stop staring at the pain.
Yesterday you were talking about making our pain
our purpose.
Our purpose, yeah? I'm sorry. My brain stopped. Anyway.
That happens to me a lot.
So can we get our brain to engage our brain?
Engage.
Right. But making our pain
our purpose.
Our purpose, right? And yeah, it's funny because yesterday, after you said that, last evening on CL's show, that was brought up, not by him, but by his guest. And it was just an amazing story. This gentleman, he had developed an eye disease when he was 6 years old. Okay. Imagine being a kid and waking up and all of a sudden your eyes are blurry. Everything's blurry all of a sudden. You had clear vision before, and then all of a sudden you wake up that way. Can't see. And they took him to a doctor, and then they diagnosed him with this disease. And basically he had pressure, his eye shaped more like a football, and it was putting pressure on his pupil. Well, long story short, this gentleman had been through several surgeries, eye surgeries. He had, surgery one, it seemed to be good. He was able to clear, and then it came right back. It happened soon after. Same story, surgery 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 6. By the time 6 came around, he's defeated. He starts picking up old bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
Just he falls into a cycle of depression. But then finally, God spoke to him about this very thing and gave him hope. And he stopped letting the pain dictate. Think about this. He had tremendous pain and he couldn't see. And he had been through all these surgeries and had his hopes high and dashed. And God showed him the path, that it wasn't about the pain. It wasn't about his disease, that there was something more, that there was still hope. The hope wasn't found in whether his disease was going to be successful or not. So he started thinking more upon that, making the pain the path to his progress, the pain through making the pain the path through to find hope again. And when he shifted his mind and he shifted those things, surgery 7 came. And that was the moment where everything in his life had changed. The surgery was a success. He's able to live his life. He's now functioning, and he continues to think this way.
But think about it. That experience, God let him be defeated to a point where he basically pushed him into a corner where he had to say, okay, what am I doing wrong? What am I supposed to think here, God? What is this for, God? What are we doing here? And God sometimes lets us get into a corner with him where we only have him and we're isolated. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to talk to you about what this is all about.
Yeah.
And it sometimes, well, a lot of times, like I just said, takes that much for us to shift our mind and renew our mind, which is what we're talking about today. We're talking about renewing our mind. How do we find our way forward with heart disease? How do we find our way out of the depths of this dark place, right? It's realizing that the pain that we are focused on could be the stepping stone out. We're sitting there in a dark hole, in a pit, with our pain. It's sitting there with us. And what we don't realize is the whole time we're sitting in that dark hole, staring at the pain and going, man, I'm down here with you and you suck and you're the whole reason I'm down here. And I can't get out. And I'm going to sit here, I'm going to yell at you, and I'm going to blame you, and I'm going to focus on you, and I can't see anything else up there because of you. And the whole time we're yelling at this pain, it's shaped like a ladder.
Yeah.
Out of the hole.
Right. Yep.
It was a ladder the whole time. We just climbed down it into the hole and then sat there and yelled at it and said, you're the reason I'm down here.
Yep.
Instead of getting back on that ladder and getting out.
Yes. Absolutely.
And what we don't understand is that time we spent in that hole, we grew, or we should have, and that we go out on that ladder and we're different when we come out.
Yeah.
That was from God today.
A whole different
for me. That was
perspective,
for me.
right?
Woo!
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I've never seen it that way. That just came to me out of nowhere. I've never seen that in my life. I've never seen that anywhere. I've never seen that analogy anywhere. That it's not something I've ever taught before. I'm just being honest. That was straight from God today.
Well,
that's clear as day. That's what we do with pain.
And
wow.
Maybe it's going to be surgery 5, 6, 7 for you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to be going through this thing over and over. You have to ask yourself, well, every time you go through that, what do I have to learn? What is God saying for you in this moment through this circumstance? What does he have for you to learn? Why is it that you're going through this? How can I turn this around? How can I see the progress through it? How can I make this the fuel to help get me above all this? Look, I've had, through my heart journey, if you don't know, I have now 10 stents. I've had quadruple bypass. I've overcome these
And a
different
heart
things.
attack.
And a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my journey, I hadn't had a heart attack. I was able to catch most of it. Yeah. So I had a perspective of fighting this disease from someone that hadn't had a heart attack. And I didn't want a heart attack. I don't want any of you to have a heart attack. Mm-hmm. However, God allowed me to have one, not just one, but three.
3 in one day.
In one day.
Yeah.
So I fell into this thing about the disease for a short period, very short period. I mean,
it was a few days.
We talk about a bounce back rate in the beginning. If this had happened to me in the beginning, I probably would have been stuck there for a lot longer. But for a moment there, I was defeated. I felt like, why is this happening to me and everything? But very quickly, we started to realize, wait a second, this is happening for a reason. And the thoughts that were coming through my mind and how I was feeling,
mm-hmm.
I saw another side of this heart disease battle.
Mm-hmm.
It took it to a whole different level for me. And I needed to go through that and to understand that and to overcome those thoughts and to recover mm-hmm. from the heart attack, to understand, to get a better perspective so I can help others. When I had this heart attack, I was already on this mission. And that was the thing. I was like, how can the enemy was telling me, you are going out there and trying to help people. You think you have the answer. You this, you that. And yet you have a heart attack. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what? I could speak from that perspective and what it takes to recover, what it takes to fix here and to fix here.
Yep. We're not here to help all of you not have heart disease.
So what is it that you're going through today? What kind of example can you be for the people around you, for the generation behind you, the people in your household?
Right.
You might be going through it. Life might be hard right now, but what kind of example can you be today?
While you're having these things.
What do you want to be? Do you want to be that bad example? Do you want your friends and family to remember you as the person that felt the depression, that their habits overtook them? Look, there have been many people in my life that was their last thing. Their habits is what killed them. Mm-hmm. Their habits were the last thing that we held on to, that not held on to, but remembered.
Right.
It was so much that it defined them. It defined them to their death. Do you want to be that person? Do you want to be that example to the people around you? Do you want them to remember your last days as being your worst, or your last days being your best? So I know what I want. What do you want? And if you want something more, I plead that you first go to God with this. Mm-hmm. Lay this down at his feet and ask for his direction. But then follow that up with thoughts that are going to feed that type of attitude, to feed that type of action.
Right. One of the things that, and I'll leave you guys with this. Because what we're really saying here is, like I said, that we're not here to help you not have heart attacks. Sure, there's lots of things you can do to begin beating heart disease and, overcoming it and work against it so that you can live longer and healthier life with nutrition and fitness and all of that. But really, truly overcoming something like heart disease is here. Okay. It's, am I beating heart disease on a daily basis with having the optimal health, having the optimal mindset that I can have, having a fulfilling life of purpose? Am I happy and contented when I wake up in the morning knowing that I'm doing everything I can do and that I'm getting the most possible out of my life, even with heart disease? Yeah. That's what we're talking about. So there's two situations in my life that have happened, and all the situations in my life fit into one of these two categories. And I'm sure it's the same for most people. There's the pain that I went through where I let it consume me. And there's the pain that I went through where I chose a different thing. I chose that I would have God and I walk through it and show me every step of the way, what am I supposed to get out of this, God? Because I refuse to walk through this situation and have it be a waste and have it just be pain. Okay? So the difference in those situations is that I grew exponentially in the situations that I chose to grow through, that I chose to take God's hand and say, you know what? This is going to be painful either way. And I cannot have this be more painful than it already is. And so I'm going to choose that I'm going to take your hand, God, and I just want to focus on whatever it is that you have to show me, because the rest of this feels like a giant waste of my time, feels like a giant a bucket of pain I don't want. It feels like it's not going anywhere. It feels like it's even going backwards. I feel like I feel helpless. I feel hopeless. I feel confused. I feel angry, and I don't understand why it is I have to go through this. So if I'm going to feel all those things anyway, then what I want to do is turn my back on those feelings and say, you know what? No. If I have a choice, and I do, then I need to look at God in the face and say, what are we going to do about it, God? What am I going to do about having to feel hopeless? What am I going to do about having to feel helpless, confused, bitter, angry, lost, alone? Well, number one, the good news is God takes care of all those things. He is the opposite of all those things, okay? He's with you. He's for you. He's hope. He's love, right? He's abundance. He's freedom. He's health. He's our healer. And he can consume you with all of the things that is the opposite of all those negative things we feel in those situations. So I had to go through those situations still, right? I had to live through it. Right. But what happened is I grew through it instead. And by the way, when I took when I made that choice and took that stance, at the very beginning, the older I get, I take that stance at the beginning of the situation now. It took me a long time. When I say there's two different situations, most of those old situations were before. And then as I grew into that, I would start doing it in the situations later, and then earlier and earlier and earlier. And now when something hard starts, I'm like, okay, God, I don't want no time wasted here. Like, what do you want? What are you even letting this happen for? Let's just get to it.
That goes back to that bounce back rate. How quickly can you bounce back from difficult circumstances?
That's why in your hospital bed, when you had your heart attack, you were like, what's this for? What does this mean? Why is this happening? I want to know, God, let me know, because I'm going to do something with this. You didn't have really almost any pity party. It was like minutes. I mean, you were like, you went there and you wait a minute. Of course I know better. Wait a minute. What's God doing in this? And it really exponential growth. You have a perspective you never could have had otherwise. And we knew at the end of this the whole time, since you had no heart damage, which is impossible, that this was all allowed to happen so that you would have that growth. And he knew that's what you were going to do. So he allowed it and protected you through it. That's the other thing. God will protect you through something inside its purpose. You just have to get on board. And so it is our choice. Renew your mind. Right. Renew your mind through the adversity and stop yelling at your pain and get on that ladder and use it to get out and say, this is the only way out, is through that pain, and saying, God, we're going to use this. Think about the gym. When you're in pain, you're building is something healthy. Pain isn't always unhealthy.
Exactly right. Hey, you guys, I hope you got something out of today. Mm-hmm. We're going to let you go.
But I did.
Yeah, exactly. I think God really has been speaking to us, especially. But if you got something out of so far this week and today's discussion, just hit like and share this with your friends and your family. We would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And remember, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our channel and make sure that you are following us, because we're going to be posting, of course, not just our devotionals or our discussions and different things, but we're going to be posting other videos and content that way that will help you with heart disease and getting through that. So make sure you subscribe. And if you want to be notified when we post those things, make sure you hit that bell icon as well.
All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and we will see you later.
God bless.